get the girls through into secondary education, it is a very, very strong correlation to a country's growth and development. And that's why the Prime Minister has put his commitment behind it. That's why he announced at the UN last year nearly £500 million for education that the UK was putting into this. And I'm particularly pleased to commend the work of DFID in this sense, and that they, in their programming, put this into action, not just words. And this audience doesn't need any reminder of the extraordinary record of DFID in this country, the fantastic work over many years that they have done. And Minister, you and I have discussed on many occasions that really it is the gold standard of a development partner for DFID's commitment on education. And we have many existing programs which are continuing this. A Girls' Education Challenge Fund established in 2012, which has provided opportunities for up to 1 million marginalised girls. The Platform for Girls' Education, which was announced at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2018, which brings together experts and influential figures. And then multilaterally, the UK being the largest donor to the Global Partnership for Education, the GPE, the Education Cannot Wait initiative, and the upcoming International Partnership for Education, all of which ensure that we have the global platforms to work together to deliver for the most marginalised girls. And all of those are specific here to Pakistan. The Minister and I, as we came in, were looking at some of the quite innovative uses of technology in this field. I think the way in which you can use apps and remote learning to help include young girls and adolescent girls in education, I think, is very powerful. And indeed, as we are all looking carefully at the global response to coronavirus, this use of innovative technology, I think, is even more relevant than it was before. Specifically, the UK's support in Pakistan has benefited, we calculate, 10 million children in primary schools and around 6 million in secondary schools, almost half of which are girls. And Idara-e-Talim or Agahi is doing a stellar job in implementing a DFID-funded girls' education program in South Punjab, empowering adolescent out-of-school girls by giving them a second chance at education, and that's what we are here to celebrate and commend. Thank you. So, Minister, I know that you and this government absolutely share this vision with us, and we are aligned in our determination, and I'd like to thank you for your partnership and your friendship as we do this. And I should note how impressed I am by the ESAS program, as it aims to target the most marginalised in society, in including women. And in sum, I am a firm believer that without investing in women and girls and giving them equal opportunities, Pakistan, no country, but Pakistan included, cannot reach its full potential. And of course, I say this not just as an ambassador, as a High Commissioner, but as the father myself of an adolescent girl. Her name is Constance. She's 14 years old, and I know day to day how important the opportunities she has are, how it's easy for her to take it for granted, and how we must not take that for granted as we look at these figures of the number of girls who are not in education. If we give this generation a voice and a choice, they will shine and make us proud. And girls' education is the way we do that. So with that sense of a voice and a choice in mind, I am looking forward to hearing about today's discussions. I hope that the panelists, the progress you've made, will help us discuss how we can do more together to achieve that. And personally, you have my continued pledge to support Pakistan in achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. पाकिस्तान की कामयाबी के लिए लड़कियों की तालीम अहम है, यानी आपका काम बहुत अहम है. बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bela, for a very, very kind introduction. I hope I can say.
Yes, you will.
But thank you for inviting me to this event. Obviously, we are fully behind it. We want all girls to get education. We can't move forward without girls' education, but we are living in difficult times, and the impact of corona, but is also impacting education. And governments all over the world have to take difficult decisions. How to respond to this challenge. Some countries have completely closed down all educational institutions. Others have not. I think we are collectively struggling to find the right fit on how to tackle this very difficult problem. And although the reported cases in Pakistan are not very high, but we have to prepare ourselves, seeing what is happening in so many other countries. So some of the tough decisions that we will have to take would be in the field of education. The National Security Committee is meeting this evening, and one of the obvious decisions would be how do we respond in the field of education. So this is a new challenge, and we are dealing with other challenges which have been historically there. And one of the major challenges is the education of girls. I think social mores are changing, but we are still struggling against some of the social barriers against girls' education. But one of the barriers that we are also struggling against is access, because many of the parents are reluctant to have their girls go far away from home to get education. So I believe there is some distance actually worked out where parents feel safe for their children to go and study. But we have to improve, as a nation, we have to improve access to girls' education. Once we improve access, then more and more girls would probably have the parental kind of support to go and seek education. The second difficulty, again, which is related to access, and I'm not talking about the will. The will is there now. As we are moving forward, the will for girls' education is rapidly rising. People are coming to this conclusion that they need everybody in the family to be educated, and I think it's fairly widespread. But then there are difficulties, and one of the difficulties also is that we have primary schools, but we don't have secondary schools. So that's also an access problem. So many girls go to for some years of education and then give up because the secondary schools are far away from home. So in that case, we've started a program for multiple usage of buildings where we are trying to have secondary schools in the same building in the afternoon and pay some extra to the teachers. And our ministry is also working very rapidly on programs where we can specifically scale up this particular program of having multiple usage of the same buildings. So the third area where I think there is a huge potential, and that is technology. We have met some friends here who are already working in technology in the field of education. But I think that has a huge potential. Why I see that as a huge potential is because we are able to leapfrog many of the barriers and hurdles that we have today. Even access issues can, in some ways or the other, if we use the right technology, if we create the right environment, it would be possible to use technology to reach many of the girls who are not going on to study. If they can be taught near their home through some technological innovation, that has the potential to have a great impact. On our part, the government has this year launched the most comprehensive scholarship program ever in the history of the country. We have allocated 5 billion rupees for undergraduate scholarships. And let me say with some little pride that 50% of these scholarships will be given to girls. So 25,000 girls would be getting undergraduate scholarships this year. Actually, if we go purely by merit, the last event that I attended regarding the results of the FA-FSC exam, it was very interesting that I think there were about 30 recipients of top honors and medals and so on and so forth, and 27 of them were girls, and only 3 boys were part of that event. So clearly girls are studying harder, are less distracted, the boys are all over the place. So, in fact, one medical doctor told me that we may soon have to have a quota for boys in medical schools because not enough of them are qualifying. But then we are also facing challenges after education also, because unfortunately a large number of the girls who are educated, who get professional degrees, do not continue in their profession. And that's a problem. So I think among the challenges that we face in the field of education, we also need to be cognizant of the fact that after they finish education, why is it that so many of them do not go on to professional careers? So we have to create the enabling environment for that. Incidentally, in Islamabad, which directly comes under the Federal Ministry, there are 75 schools girls' schools, which have been equipped with the best possible labs. So our small contribution towards female girls' education. I want to commend Dara Talim-e-Agahi for the work that they are doing in South Punjab for girls' education, and we will do whatever we can. But I want to particularly, personally thank Dr. Christian Turner for what he is doing for Pakistan. Clearly, some other events are beginning to draw our attention away from what has already been accomplished, the coronavirus business. But the fact that an MCC team was here, the fact that travel advisories have been sort of reissued or withdrawn, British Airways have started flights to Pakistan. A lot of it is due to the High Commissioner. I'm very grateful to you, Dr. Christian Turner. I think it would be appropriate to thank DFID. DFID has been our most assiduous, wonderful partner in the field of education for many, many years now. And they've really helped the provincial governments, especially in school education. So we are very grateful to DFID for what they have done. So as we move forward, and I may be sounding slightly grim because there are challenging times that we live in these days. So while we face the threat of this global pandemic, we have to keep our eye on the ball and make sure that our goals that we have set for ourselves in education, we continue to move forward towards those goals. So thank you very much again. And lastly, I forgot to mention that even in the vocational training, we have launched a very huge program in vocational training in which we are spending 10 billion this year in different aspects of vocational training. And among them, 50,000 people will be trained for high-end trades, blockchain, Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, and 50% of those are also going to be girls. So we are doing a little bit on our part to make sure that there's... So thank you very much again, and look forward to the deliberations of this conference.
Okay, sir, if you can just stand right here. May I request Dr. Turner to please come here, and we will have our students. हमारी 6 बच्चियां आई हुई हैं मुजफ्फरगढ़ और बहावलपुर से और रहीमिया खान से. ये सियानी सहेलियां हैं. ये वो उम्मीद के सितारे हैं जिन्होंने आसमान तक जाना है, कुछ भी इनको रोक सकता है. तो it will be wonderful to have our 2 amazing champions for girls' education be framed by the students, the Siani Saheliyan program, advancing action for adolescent girls. और बहुत सारे लोग ऑलरेडी आ गए, मगर may I request Annabelle, who's here, Gary, the head of DFID, to please come, as well as Saima Anwar, who's led this program, to come on the stage as well, because really these are the stars of the program. Come and stand. ये बहुत जबरदस्त है।
So many things are being cancelled और उम्मीद है कि कोरोना वायरस के लिए भी ये लड़कियां जदीद कुछ सॉल्यूशंस ढूंढेंगी और वहाँ पे अपने जाके वहाँ पे भी उसका शोर फैलाएंगी, क्योंकि अब तो नए लफ्ज ढूंढ रहे हैं। सोशल डिस्टेंस बुरा मनाया जाता था कि गलत लफ्ज है, एक मनफी लफ्ज है। Now social distance is not a negative term anymore, it is the most positive.
देखिए, आज शाम को नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी की मीटिंग है। सो ये सारे फैसले इन चीज़ों के बारे में नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी करेगी। कुछ मुल्कों ने अपने तालीमी इदारे बंद कर दिए हैं, लेकिन अभी मैं ब्रिटिश हाई कमिश्नर से बात कर रहा था, तो इन्होंने कोई स्कूल जो है वो अभी तक और कोई यूनिवर्सिटी बंद नहीं की। सो मुख्तलिफ ममालिक मुख्तलिफ तरीके से इस मसले का हल तलाश कर रहे हैं, और आज हम भी सर जोड़ के बैठेंगे और इस पे करेंगे। अभी तो बाहर की छुट्टियां भी आ रही हैं स्कूलों में, तो वैसे भी स्कूल जो है वो कुछ देर के लिए बंद होंगे। तो लेकिन इस पे पूरी स्ट्रेटजी क्या अपनानी है, किस तरह आगे बढ़ना है, ये सारे मामला जो हैं आज शाम को तय हो जाए।
सर, अभी तक क्या हिफाजती इक़दाम किए गए, स्कूल्स में कोई एडवाइजरी जारी की गई है, कोई बच्चों को कोई बताया गया है, टीचर्स को बताया कुछ?
देखिए, अभी तक तो आपको पता है कि बलूचिस्तान में स्कूल जो हैं वो बंद हैं, और सिंध में भी स्कूल जो काफ़ी देर से बंद किए हुए हैं, क्योंकि ज़्यादातर केसेस अभी सिंध में और बलूचिस्तान का, क्योंकि ईरान के बॉर्डर के साथ ताल्लुक़ है और ईरान में काफ़ी केसेस हैं। तो लेकिन हिफाजती इक़दाम यही हैं कि जो भी आ रहा है उसकी चेकिंग हो रही है। 8-10 लाख लोग जो हैं उनकी स्क्रीनिंग हो चुकी है। जो भी कोई 19 या 20 या 22 केसेस जो हैं वो आए हैं, और ज़्यादातर ये ऐसे लोग हैं जो बाहर से आए हैं, तो उनको फॉलो अप किया जा रहा है। लेकिन ये एक वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने ये कहा है कि ये एक ग्लोबल पेंडेमिक है, यानी कि एक ऐसी बीमारी है जो सारी दुनिया में फैल रही है। तो इससे कुदरती बात है कि पाकिस्तान में लोग आते जाते हैं और हमारे बॉर्डर्स ईरान के साथ, चीन के साथ मिलते हैं, तो इसलिए हमें अपने एहतियाती तदाबीर तो करनी पड़ेंगी, और उसका इन सब चीज़ों का असर पाकिस्तान पे भी होगा। लेकिन मेरा ख्याल है कि जितने भी इक़दाम किए जा रहे हैं उसमें कोई परेशानी की ज़रूरत नहीं है। अल्लाह के फजल से अभी तक मामलात जो हैं काफ़ी हद तक अंडर कंट्रोल है। सारे एक्सपर्ट्स ये कहते हैं कि गैदरिंग्स जो है बड़ी बड़ी नहीं होनी चाहिए। बहरहाल ये चीज़ें डॉक्टर्स जिस तरह और हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री जिस तरह हमें एडवाइस करेगी उसके मुताबिक फिर हम चलेंगे। ठीक है जी, मेहरबानी, शुक्रिया।
what is this कि हम क्या करना चाहते हैं और what how we live a life। इसके अलावा हम जस्ट एक मोबाइल के थ्रू अपनी पूरी लाइफ को डिस्कस कर सकते हैं कि हमारी लाइफ में ये डिफिकल्टीज थी, ये परेशानियां थी, हमने इनको ऐसे ऐसे सॉल्व किया और ये सब कुछ सॉफ्टवेयर की वजह से हुआ है। और इसके अलावा जो सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस था इसमें हम बहुत इस्तेमाल, क्योंकि बेसिक चीज़ हमारे लिए सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस होता है और इसमें हमें हिम्मत और बासलाहियत होने का मौका मिला। नौ उम्मीद से बहुत दूर, आज हम अपनी जिंदगी से बहुत ज़्यादा खुशहाल और मुतमईन हैं।
Great words indeed, by someone so young. If Ma'am Shameen can actually say a few words and shed some light on what actually went on with the program and her side of the story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, I'm going to play 2 videos that kind of give you the ethos of what we were trying to do with the students and taking learning to where they live and equipping them with critical life skills that I feel will help them not only become more confident, but go on to have some sort of a career, become financially independent. So just to give you a snapshot of what we had and what we have been doing with them for the last 6 months. While they figure out the technical difficulties, I just want to start off by saying that when we got into this partnership, the idea was threefold. The first was, what are the critical life skills these girls need? So we created the animated films which talked about nutrition, which talked about health, which talked about financial literacy, which talked about self-awareness and being an active citizen in society. And it also talked about personal hygiene. That was just one component of it. Then we thought about equipping the girls about telling their stories. It's extremely important to understand where these girls come from and what their everyday reality is. When we began our workshops, we empowered the girls with a mobile phone. Then we asked each girl to go out and create a story. We partnered about 3 or 4 girls together. And the kind of stories they went and found, that spoke to them about their life, their society, their community, their friends, it gave them a sense of confidence. And it was probably the first time, as many of these girls told us, that they were talking about things that they had never spoken about. So some of the things that we unearthed are taboo subjects, the violence that takes place in their life, the things that they see on an everyday basis. But it's important for them to vocalize those issues. And we used film. We taught them how to create films. And then they went out, created the films and came back. And then we screened the films for them. Just hold on for 1 second. And then they went off and did that. And then we built this mobile cinema that goes village to village. We went to over 50 villages across the region, taking the films that we have created not only for this program, but the films that we have been creating for the better part of a decade, educating girls about their legal rights, educating girls about abuse, educating girls about how to stand up and be a better citizen, what democracy is, how they can participate in their communities, what kind of voices that they can have, what an active voter is, what are their rights as citizens of Pakistan. And each video we showed them. So we are able to show content not only to men and to boys outside, but to women inside also. हमारे पास जो फिल्म है उसके अंदर एजुकेशनल और इंफॉर्मेटिव लेसन्स हैं बहुत सारे, और उसके अंदर बच्चों के, औरतों के
और ह्यूमन राइट्स के बारे में अवेयरनेस। इस टॉपिक के ऊपर हम लोगों ने पुराने एनिमेटेड कार्टून दिखाए ताकि बच्चे उनसे सीखें और ओपनली चीज़ों के बारे में डिस्कशन कर सकें।
सारा अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम बहुत अच्छा है। आई थिंक कि ये ऐसे प्रोग्राम्स होने चाहिए और उन इलाकों में भी होने चाहिए जहाँ इन सब चीज़ों की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है। हर किसी के ड्रीम्स होते हैं, लेकिन बहुत सी लड़कियाँ छोटी हैं तो उनके बस ये नहीं हो सकता। लोगों ने कह दिया हम नहीं कर सकते। इस बात से भी वो अवेयर होंगे कि हम ये कर सकते हैं, वो करके दिखाएं।
Unfortunately, the other one doesn't seem to be working. But just
वो सब्जी का काम करते हैं। मैं एक के पेपर अभी दिए हैं और मेरा ख्वाब है कि मैं टीचर हूँ। जी वैसे तो बहुत सी ऐसी बातें हैं जो हार्ट करती हैं, लेकिन मुझे जो हार्ट करती है ये है कि एक बच्चे की माँ अपनी बेटी को बताती ही है कि इन महीनों में उन्होंने कैसे अपनी सेहत का ख्याल रखना है। एक दफ़ा मेरे साथ ऐसे हुआ कि मुझे पीरियड्स आए और मुझे नहीं पता था और मम्मा ने डर्टी कपड़ा दे के मुझे कहा कि जाओ और आप है ना चेंज करो, सिर्फ यही कहा। हालांकि मम्मा को कहना चाहिए था कि जाओ ये ऐसे करो, इसको ऐसे साफ सुथरा रखना है, इसको यूँ करना है, लेकिन मम्मा ने ऐसा नहीं कहा। और ऐसे है कि हर बच्ची को चाहिए कि वो उसको पता होना चाहिए कि कैसे हमने अपनी सेहत का ख्याल रखना है।
सो मिसबा आपसे सवाल है कि हमारे सेशंस और पार्टनरशिप से पहले इदारा तलीम उगाई की पार्टनरशिप से पहले क्या अवेयरनेस की आपके इलाके में और क्या एक्सेसिबिलिटी है, पैड्स की अवेलेबिलिटी सहूलत है?
जैसे आपने सवाल पूछा, बिल्कुल भी नहीं। वहाँ पर हमें किसी बात की भी अवेयरनेस नहीं दी जाती, खासतौर पे हम यहाँ कुछ भी नहीं बताती। जब मैं इस इदारे में आई, इदारा तलीम उगाई में आई, तब मुझे सेशन एक दिया गया था जो मैंने सदर ने दिया था और उस सेशन में उन्होंने हमें सिखाया था कि हमें खुद को भी पता होना चाहिए कि हमारे साथ क्या होता है। और मैं घर जाके अपनी अम्मी और अपनी बहन को भी ये सारा कुछ बताया, तो वो बहुत खुश हुई और उन्होंने कहा कि तुमने ये स्कूल में कैसे सीखा, तो मैंने उनको बताया था कि मुझे सेशन दिया गया। इसके बाद जैसे दूसरा सवाल इन्होंने पूछा कि ना वहाँ पर पैड्स की अवेलेबिलिटी बिल्कुल भी नहीं है, अगर मिलते भी हैं बहुत दूर से मिलते हैं, उसके लिए पैसे भी बहुत ज़्यादा देने पड़ते हैं। इसलिए जब इदारे में आए तो पता चला कि हमें यहाँ पर भी पैड्स अवेलेबल है और यहाँ पर हमें दिए जाते हैं, मगर वो बहुत सस्ते होते हैं बजाय इसके कि हम बाजार से बहुत ज़्यादा महंगे खरीदते हैं।
Thank you so much for sharing. जो तीसरा आपसे सवाल मैं पूछूंगी अलीबा कि आपको पता है कि आपने अपने हाइजीन का ख्याल कैसे रखना है, हाथ कैसे धोने हैं, बात कैसे लेना है?
जी पहले तो मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पता था और गांव में ज़्यादातर साबुन नहीं रहती, अगर होती है तो वो ख़त्म हो जाती है और बाद में ऐसे ही 3-4 दिन गुजर जाते हैं, तो इससे काफ़ी सारी बीमारी फैलती है। और जैसे ही मैं अपने स्कूल में आई तो हमारे स्कूल में साबुन रखा गया और टीचरों ने बताया कि आपने इनसे हाथ धोना है, वॉशरूम के बाद, पहले, खाना खाने के पहले और खाना खाने के बाद। और वैसे ही मैंने घर जाके अपने साबुन रखा और अपने बहनों को कहा कि इससे आपने हाथ धोने हैं ताकि आपकी सेहत खराब ना हो।
मिसबा आप बताएंगे कि आपको पता था कि आपने जो सैनिटरी पैड अगर आप इस्तेमाल करो, इवन तो आप कपड़ा भी इस्तेमाल कर रहे हो, तो उसको डिस्पोज ऑफ कैसे करना है, फेंकना कहाँ पे, किस तरीके से फेंकना है?
इस सेशन से पहले तो मुझे बिल्कुल भी पता नहीं था, मगर जब सेशन लिया मैम सदर ने मुझे बताया, अभी भी वो मेरे सामने बैठी हैं, उन्होंने मुझे बताया था कि अगर आपने पैड या कुछ ज़ाया करना है तो उसको हम पहले कागज़ में लपेटेंगे और फिर शॉपर में डाल के बाद फेंकेंगे, बजाय इसके कि हम गली में फेंकते हैं। इसको अच्छी तरह धोकर साफ सुथरा सील करके फिर फेंकना चाहिए।
फिर वो वाली स्टोरी भी तो ऑडियंस से शेयर करो ना कि आपने किस तरह अपने भाई के साथ मिलके बास्केट बनाई घर में।
हाँ, जब मैं स्कूल आई थी तो वॉशरूम में भी एक अलग से डस्टबिन पड़ा था ताकि हम अपना वेस्ट सामान उसमें डालें। मैं घर गई तो मुझे भी एक ऐसी बाल्टी मिली तो मैंने उसको रख लिया, अब हम उसमें कचरा ख्वाब मैं देखती थी घर में काम करने का, मैं वो नहीं देखती हूँ। मैंने जो ख्वाब डॉक्टर बनने का देखा है, मैं वो पूरा करके दिखाऊंगी इंशाल्लाह।
आप कुछ कहना चाहोगे?
जी, जैसे कि इन्होंने कहा कि हमारी बहुत छोटी थी सोच, लेकिन मेरा ख्वाब था कि टीचर बनूं। पहले मैं सोचती थी कि मैं टीचर बनूंगी, अब मैंने बन के दिखाना है कि लड़कियां भी कर सकती हैं। लड़कियां नहीं, लेकिन लड़कियां भी कर सकती हैं, और मैं बन के दिखाऊंगी और आगे बच्चों को सीख दूंगी कि कैसे उन्होंने अपनी सेहत का ख्याल रखना है, कैसे वो आगे अपनी आप को साफ सुथरा रख सकते हैं और आगे वो कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं।
थैंक यू सो मच। सो मेरी आप सब लोगों से यही गुजारिश है कि बार-बार इस पीरियड्स को एक टैबू और स्टिग्मा ना समझें। इसको
फ्राइडे की थी, हमारे घर आए, उन्होंने हमसे कहा कि हमारे क्लासेस यहाँ शुरू होती है, 9th and मैट्रिक दोनों के लिए करवाई जाती हैं। फिर जब मैं यहाँ आई तो देखा यहाँ बच्चे ऑनलाइन क्लासेस ले रहे थे। ऑनलाइन म्यूजिक पढ़ने का बहुत शौक था। मैंने पहली दफ़ा देखा तो मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड हुई मेरे अंदर कि भाई मैं ऑनलाइन क्लासेस लूँगी। ऑनलाइन क्लासेस ली तो देखा बहुत अच्छा लगा। वहाँ पर पढ़ने के साथ समझ भी बहुत अच्छे तरीके से आता था। जब अगर ना भी समझ आए तो रिकॉर्डिंग हमारे पास होती थी, समझ तो आता था मगर रिकॉर्डिंग भी हमारे पास होती थी, हम उसमें से देख लेते थे। और जो टीचर्स हैं वहाँ पर पढ़ाते थे, हमें कभी भी ऐसा महसूस नहीं हुआ कि टीचर्स हमारे पास नहीं है। हमारे सामने टीचर्स हुआ करते थे और वो हमें लगता था कि वो हमारे साथ खड़े होकर हमें पढ़ा लें। और मुझे इस तरह पढ़ने का बहुत शौक था भी और अब पूरा भी हो गया वो शौक। और अब मैं चाहती हूँ कि मैं अपना एम पूरा करूँ। मैं चाहती हूँ कि मैं ना एयरफोर्स में जाऊँ और मैं उसे पूरा भी करूँगी। और मैं वहाँ पर बनना, मुझे नजर आता है कि मैं बन सकती हूँ। और अब जिस तरह इन्होंने हमारी खूब मदद की है तो मैं चाहूँगी कि मैं बनूँ, ये एयरफोर्स में जाऊँ। थैंक यू।
So over to Anam now.
Hubs and partner schools, and the teacher teaches them live through a projector, and it's interactive, so the students ask questions, and we also outsource testing with them. So you already heard the story here. Hira talked about today is her board examination for biology, so it's an exciting day for us. So she talked about how there was no school in her area, and the school that was high school was very far away, and she couldn't go to school. So what happened was that she was out of school for about 2 years, but then the ITA team came to her and they told them that this program was running. The kids came to the classroom and were very, in their own words, excited to see a tech-enabled classroom. And then they started studying with us, and they have big dreams. All of the girls here also told us about their dreams, and what really heartens me is that ever since these interventions, those girls feel that their dreams can be realized. And that's really where the magic is. So let me just walk you through how we do this. So you're all well aware that 22.5 million children are out of school in Pakistan. And what's worse is the fact that those who are going to school, 50% of them about are failing their board, metric, and intermediate examinations. And to train these students, you need an army of teachers, right? 22.5 million students. Where do you get these army of teachers from? This is where tech-enabled learning comes in. So what we're doing with Idarat Talim Agahi is that we have what we call rockstar teachers. So we picked up teachers who are at the best private institutions. We bring them to our classroom. We train them in online teaching because it's actually a performance to do an online interactive classroom virtual sessions where you connect to hundreds of students at the same time. We work with the University of Madison, Wisconsin in the US to train our teachers. These teachers come to our headquarters. We have a purpose-built teaching pods from which we do broadcast. The students view the live online classes from their schools. We equip them with projectors and a whole set so that they can view these classes. It's live and interactive. There's a lot of focus on relationship building with the students. So they ask their questions, they send us their homeworks, and we test them continuously to see where they're at in their performance. So that's how the system sort of works. So we feel that now is a great time to leverage online technology and to do tech-enabled classrooms because we have about 160 million cellular subscribers in Pakistan. And we leverage Facebook because 36 million people are on Facebook. So we do a lot of sessions through Facebook Live as it's very easy for students to adopt and use that environment. It's amazing to see that by 2025, GSMA data estimates that 90% of Pakistan's population will have access to internet, 4G and 5G high-speed internet. So
right now is a really good time. We see a big breakthrough where the education crisis can be matched and leveraged through technology. So let's talk about the magic with ITA. So firstly, I just want to thank Dr. Bela and the entire ITA team because they were sort of our champions. They took a risk on us and we built this program together with the Connected Classrooms. So we started with 3 classrooms in January 2019 and very shortly we accelerated to 11 classrooms by the end of the year with Idara Talim Agahi, and then by the end of the year we had several other partners and went to about 37 schools to do this. So enrollment we've seen across the board ever since the classroom has been set up has increased. On average, it really has varied, but at least 20% improvement in enrollment in the classrooms we're at, and it's gone all the way up to 600%. So we're very data-centric. We love tracking student performance because at the end we're preparing them for the board exams, so we really need to make sure that they have what it takes to be able to graduate and pass, because it is an accelerated program. So we've seen that when we take a baseline test, as soon as we enter the classroom before the intervention starts, the baselines are fairly low, especially for mathematics. But we've seen that student performance has increased 32% for biology and chemistry, 14% for math, and 31% for physics. So we keep testing them at regular intervals to ensure that they are on track. Alright, apart from this, we also have a YouTube channel where students go and they view their concepts. We have about 1,000 videos that students see. And students who are in intermediate and they want live online classes, they can also connect with us through their smartphones and take live online classes. So I already talked about this. We've seen great retention. Students, you've heard from here as well, they really enjoy the online experience because it's something very new for them, and they do get those rockstar teachers that they desperately need. So we feel that, we are well placed to sort this challenge because we have a phenomenally passionate team of educators. We really focus on a human-centered design approach. We go to the students, ask them what the pain point is. Before we sort of started this, we had other hypotheses, but when we spoke with students, we found out that they really just wanted a rockstar teacher who can also have a relationship in terms of understanding what the student's level is and communicating at that level. So we believe that we always execute a human-centered design approach to target the pain point of the student. And third, partnerships. Again, Hidayat Ali Muagai has done a fantastic job in sort of unlocking this potential by partnering with various organizations. So that's all I have to say. And then in the time of crisis such as Corona, EdTech and technology-enabled learning takes the front seat. And we're hoping to partner with you all and sort of make sure that education doesn't get left behind at a time like this. And we're going to be sort of starting a 24/7 helpline for students where they can ask their questions just before the exams so that they feel prepared for the exam.
Thank you, Anna, and a big thank you to all the ladies on stage right now. I would like to invite Ma'am Bela Jameel and Animal Jerry to give tokens of appreciation to our partners. Thank you.
Sharmeen, please. Go ahead. The chunri from Bhavalpur, South Punjab. Thank you, rock stars. Fantastic. Sadaf, her ground, amazing. Sadaf was saying, ma'am, you met me in Islamabad 2 years ago, and suddenly you gave me a call, and I said, I don't wait. If people have got solutions, we just need to scale up. May I have Anam from Medcasa? Thank you, Anam. और शुक्रिया हमारी wonderful सारी सहेलियाँ आइए चले. We need to move fast. We are going slow, and again
we talk about middle school. We talk about the second chance program because we know that there is attrition and there are girls fall through the cracks at a certain point in time. But even at the primary level, there are huge gaps across vast swaths of the country. So as a government, we are very conscious of that. We are also very conscious as a government that in terms of labor workforce, there are huge gaps. 87% participation for men, about 24% participation for women.
Financial inclusion, which is one metric to look at when we were assessing the economic participation of women, you can see that for women it stands at around 7%. So there are huge gender gaps, but on the other hand, as a government, you also know that if you aspire to be a middle-income country in the next 10 years, if you are aspiring for GDP growth, you're not going to achieve it without mainstreaming women in the economic sphere. So if you're going to shut your eyes to the potential of 50%, you're actually losing out on the 30% potential in terms of GDP progress straight away. These are very simple math. Whether I like it or not, whether anyone likes it or not, these are the realities right in front of you. So, and on the other hand, it's not just pure economic sense. Even with the social sector hat, it makes perfect sense. My background is in the health field. And always we knew that as health practitioners, no matter what we did in terms of numbers of hospitals, numbers of doctors, number of nurses, there is no matching the potential of female education. So wherever there have been quantum strides in reduction in fertility rate, in child mortality, in maternal mortality, the single ingredient has been women's level of education. So potential is huge, the gap is wide, and it made perfect sense for me now as a policymaker to make women's issues central to the SR's agenda. So if you read the SR strategy, which is in the public domain, the attention to women's education, livelihood opportunities, economic mainstreaming, protection is a central pillar of SRs, just as precision safety nets are, just as equality is, just as several other values and principles are. So what have we done as a government? Number one, as a government, and as far as SRS is concerned, I have this absolute staunch commitment to use data for accountability. Disaggregating all variables, whether it is service level and process level indicators, or whether it is outcome level indicators and you want to measure performance, or whether you want to look at process level indicators to look at how the operations are going, there's an absolute commitment and an intent to disaggregate data and to use it for accountability and for policy refinement. Just the other day, I was looking at the breakdown of interest-free loans given to men and women. We stood at 41% for women. That's totally unacceptable. We have to take it up to 50%, which is the stated commitment. But unless you're going to look at data, you will not be able to do these things. Because the simplest thing to do in the government is rhetoric. Humne ye kar diya, hamari ye commitment. And that's not good enough unless you're able to document things with evidence. So one is the data disaggregation piece and using that data for remedial action. Secondly, we have a 50% rule in SRs, which means that no matter what we do, it has to be at least 50% for women, whether it is loans, whether it is access to assets, whether it is access to scholarships. Recently, we launched Pakistan's largest need-based undergraduate scholarship program, and I had to fight the system to ensure that it is going to be 50% scholarships actually for women, because there were lots of voices that said, औरतें तो शादियां कर लेती हैं, ये तो नौकरियां नहीं करती, ये करने की क्या ज़रूरत है? So, and I have to tell you that we got absolute support from the Prime Minister on this, the 50% need-based scholarships. Then there is a 50% plus rule in SRs, which means, so our financial inclusion program and our monthly stipend program is 100% for women. The asset transfer program, which means giving women's assets to improve their livelihood prospects, that is 60% plus for women. There is also another initiative run out of BISP called Wasila-e-Taaleem, where the stipend for primary education for girls and boys was the same, we have increased the stipend for girls to encourage girls' primary school enrollment. So there are some dimensions in ASAS which are 50% on the 50%, and there are some that are on the 50% plus dimension. Then of course there are a number of different innovative streams within ASAS, and many of them actually gel with this agenda. We have floated an RFP to get a partner on board to run a second chance program at scale, and that is where the competencies of pilot projects like yours become extremely valuable for us, and I know that many partners are currently being considered in the bidding process. We have currently in the field a family planning initiative run by the Pop Council in the district of Rahim Yar Khan, and we're trying to ascertain how we are going to integrate potentially a family planning initiative as part of the domain of the CCTs, the conditional cash transfers that we run out of BISP. So that's another scheme of innovations. There is an RFP in the field to get the right partner or partners to ensure that we have the right mix of online education available for K-12. So a number of different innovations in the field. What is there within, just a little bit about what there is within ASAS to further the economic empowerment agenda of women. And there I'd like in particular to refer to the work of the Labour Expert Group. And the Labour Expert Group has come up with a report which we are going to launch on May the 1st. We are already quite further along in implementing the recommendations of the Labour Expert Group, and one of the salient recommendations is that the work of domestic women workers and the work of rural women whose work is seen as an extension of their domestic household responsibilities should be formalized, and that their salaries should be paid through bank accounts, predicated on the understanding that that opens the venue for them to be enrolled in social security, in pension schemes, and that improves our ability to track that they are actually given the minimum wage. Also within the sphere of women's economic empowerment, as you would know, the new Kafalat program is a financial inclusion program, so all women have now access to bank accounts and will very soon have access to smartphones, which will really open up a world of possibilities to them. Not just the around 10 million that we hope to include within that bracket, but also multiplied by their household sizes. And of course, the challenge for us as a government is always to do things properly, to implement things properly, to do them with integrity, to have the right monitoring mechanisms, because that is where things fall through the cracks within the government system. So the work-related piece, and of course I must acknowledge the very progressive legislation that Punjab and Sindh have on domestic workers, and on legislation with regard to women and bonded labour. We hope that these provincial pieces of legislation will be effectively implemented, because that continues to be the big gap. On the education side, and our colleagues are working on the single curriculum, you are aware of that. There is a focus on leaving out girls, not just within ASAS but government-wide. Our law ministry has come up with the ordinance with regard to women's inheritance, and I know that Sharmeen continues to cascade those things into amazing documentaries, which we hope to integrate into the new ASAS app very shortly. The age of marriage legislation, we are extremely serious about. The President now chairs the Family Planning Task Force. The family planning piece is an absolute critical part of anything that we have to do with regard to women. I make a lot of field visits these days, and when I go to the field, I tell you I don't know how to articulate it as a government representative speaking publicly. Women have 8 children, 9 children, 10 children, 12 children. That is the reality in the field. That is the reality in the field. And that is what we need to change. I mean, Pakistan does not have the systemic state constraints to the participation of women in the economic sphere, in public life. We've got so many of you out here in this room. We dress the way we like, we say what we like. There are no state constraints on the participation of women in the way that they are in the Middle East, for example. But the cultural factors, the patriarchal factors, the societal factors, the lack of education, the lack of opportunities, the access rights and freedoms, the constraints on access rights and freedoms, and the way they play out in some of the remote areas of this country are really heart-wrenching. So I go to Mohmand Agency and I see these women who have 12 children, upwards of 8 children, who have never been in a public gathering, let alone talk about economic participation, who've never been in a public gathering, who do not know what to do with the letter that we send them saying that they are beneficiaries of Kafalat. They have access to Amdan program, they have access to the loans program, they have access to online resources, and they don't know what to do with that letter. I mean, the lack of education, the lack of opportunities. But to me, this is a clarion call. To me, this is something that we can change with state-of-the-art opportunities and tools that we now have at our disposal. So I just want to say to you that I'm very optimistic that we will be able to make quantum strides. And the reason why I say this is because I see that the government has the right intentions. The government is operating in an environment of integrity and is making sure that there is accountability for results. And as a government representative, I also want to say that we are extremely conscious of the potential within the civil society and the private sector, because these are not things that the government can do on its own. Which is why in another month or six weeks' time, depending on how coronavirus shapes our, the timings of whatever is in the pipeline, we hope to come up with what is called the SAS private sector engagement policy, which is quite a comprehensive policy with eight dimensions outlining how we envisage engaging with the private sector. And as part of that, there is also a pledging component. There's a series of annual, there is a series of at least once a quarter pledging events where partners like you can come and dovetail your work with the government and work in at least 8 different arrangements. So I once again want to thank you for the work that you do. I myself come from a civil society background, so I know how difficult it is for small civil society organizations to pursue agendas single-handedly over decades with very little institutional support for the government, and we are soon going to change that too. And I also want to thank colleagues from DFID who have played a very critical role in continuing to lend support. Some of our INGOs have done trailblazing work, have brought very valuable skills and talents and pilot programs to the field. And I assure you that coronavirus timing permitted, we will soon come up with this framework to engage you very meaningfully. Thank you once again for all the work you do.
I've begged her, and thank you, Dr. Sania Nishtar, for this great generosity in time. I know how difficult it is.
Often that I'm the only man sitting on the stage surrounded by women, but thank you, Bella, for asking me to join this esteemed group. And as far as Oxfam is concerned, of course, women's rights and girls' education, as well as women's empowerment, is core to our work, not just in Pakistan, but actually globally. And this is something that is, of course, front and center. And we, with ITA, actually, are integrally involved in a campaign called Alif Se Uran, which is basically looking at, it's giving the girls education opportunities so that the girls can fly and fly to heights that they can only aspire and dream about. And we feel very strongly that the development and future of this country, or any country, but this country in particular, sits front and center with girls' education, and not only that, but also the opportunity for women to get into the workforce. One of the key concerns that, of course, many issues have been talked about, but one area that or two areas, if time permitting. This phenomenon, unfortunately, is looking at the impact of climate change on women's economic empowerment and girls' education in particular is something that perhaps we should be. My pledge is quite straightforward. Oxfam is committed to girls' education, women's economic empowerment, and working with Pakistan civil society as the private sector. I feel that the Pakistani private sector, in addition to the international, and I thank you, Bella, for your time, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, Alif Se Uran. Dr. Fawzia Saeed is not here, but strong as you want. And I think that's the way the public sector comes forward. It's fantastic to have that. May I request, Nadia said, and I'm really requesting.
Thank you very much, Bella. I want Peter to Landy telling me that more than 5 million children or girls basically are out of school. And when I walked into this room, so I saw more. So then I was wondering, what does that tell me? And then, my conclusion to that, girls and women, they are fearless. They have decided